Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 10. Episode number 10 of Audrey Helps Actors. Special thanks this week to the iTunes reviews from Pete323, Sean, Happy Face, and Patty. Thanks for the great reviews, you guys. Keep them up. And I know that there are many of you out there who have still not written your review. Just do it, please. Please do it for me, please. Also, shout out to Eileen Fogarty and Andy Cameron for their shares on Facebook and social media. That really helps me out so much. It means so much to me that you guys are listening and that you're moved to share with other actors. It just fills my heart with joy. I got some really helpful feedback about the agent section from our podcast, the Shit Your Agent Won't Tell You section. Last week I did a little thing where the agent said, "Dear actor, do not ask me, can we strategize and sit down? Because I've put you in 8 rooms in 6 weeks and the only strategy you've got is you're not booking. Thanks." And a lot of people thought that came off as condescending or attitudinal, we'll say. And I just want you to know, those don't come from me. Those come from agents. I emailed several agents and got anonymous responses from them. I want actors to know how agents feel about you in like a real and honest way. And just know agents are working really hard, you guys. An actor only gets rejected once every time they audition, but agents get rejected every single time that they pitch for all of the actors that they're pitching for all day, every day. They can't put down their phones because they might miss a call from a casting director or an actor. They don't want to lose their important clients. They don't want to lose those important relationships. They are often tired, they're overwhelmed, and I say to you, if you have feelings about agents or your agent in particular, I really recommend talking to somebody who's worked in an agent's office. I'm going to see what I can do about bringing somebody like that. And also I recommend maybe interning for a few months at an agent's office. You're going to see how much work it is. It's really a ton of work. The agent's job is really so thankless. And I just think you have to give them all the love and the props in the world. And know that when you ask them to strategize for them, getting you 6 auditions in 8 weeks is actually really good. If your agent has done that, they've been working their ass off for you, and it's crushing to them that you haven't booked. And I know that that's not helpful to you because you don't want more pressure, because we already put pressure on ourselves. But just know when you're asking your agent for a strategy session, that's going to maybe be a little bit emotional for them because they feel like they're working their ass off to get you these opportunities and they're not seeing the return on their investment yet. And you know what? Agents worry about money. Agents have quotas that they have to hit for their bosses. So they're stressed out just like you're stressed out. And if everyone could just learn a little more compassion, a little more empathy, a little more camaraderie. So just know these agent things that I'm telling you, they're actually from actual agents. They're not from me. I just want you to have a little inside scoop. So we're going to talk today to Andy Cameron about the Chicago market, and then we're going to talk to a couple friends of mine, Lauren Myers, Courtney Cunningham, about the New Mexico market. I know a lot of you have expressed interest in both markets. There's a real debate about whether you should go small market and then go to LA, or go LA and then go to a small market to build some credits. Like, what is the magical combination? And we're going to discuss, there really is no magical combination, but we're going to discuss the pros and cons that are best for you. So I hope you find this episode informative, and I hope it brings some clarity to you about where you should go or whether you should stay wherever you are. Enjoy the show. I hope you're on your way to an audition. Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
So what is your intention with talking about local markets? Because I know you did Chicago.
Yeah, so my intention with we're live, by the way. We started. My intention with local markets is because I have a lot of friends who both move to local markets and move from local markets. Mm-hmm. And that includes big markets too, Chicago, New York, London, parts of Australia, and then they move to Los Angeles, or they move from Los Angeles to these other markets. It's so interesting because I feel like everyone thinks the opposite is going to solve their problem. Yeah. So I have all these friends who move from LA to Atlanta, and they think like once they get to Atlanta, it's going to be like the golden ticket.
So many co-stars.
Yeah, exactly. And then they move, and I have friends who move from Atlanta, tired of being in the co-star world or in the smaller part world, and they're like, once I get to LA, now I have credits. They're just gonna roll out the carpet for me.
So many guest
Yeah,
stars.
exactly. And everyone thinks
Where's my
that like
fees regular?
the next thing is gonna solve their problems. And I just think if we give a little bit more information, then people can have maybe a clearer understanding of what their target should be in any market versus a delusional understanding of what those would be. So let's talk about who we are. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Lauren Myers.
And
I'm Courtney Cunningham.
And I am Audrey Moore, and we're to talk about New Mexico market today. So let's talk about where we know each other from.
We met at commercial auditions.
We met at commercial auditions, that's right.
And then wound up being on set together.
In New Mexico.
In New Mexico.
And you and I.
We met on Manhattan.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And you too?
We met through I think they're like in the indie film world, I think originally in New Mexico and theater.
And the New Mexico theater
scene. We're going to get to the New
Mexico
Mexico theater scene, you guys. So excited. What is everyone's relationship to New Mexico? So I, Audrey Moore, if you can just say who you are again a couple times so they get used to your voice. I, Audrey Moore, was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when I was 18, I flew out of there and moved to Boston, where I studied acting, and then moved to London, moved to New York, and moved to Los Angeles. It was about when I finished college that the New Mexico market just barely started to happen. And I didn't go back to really pursue any of the New Mexico market until Manhattan started airing, and Manhattan's a show on WGN, and that just had a lot to do with my casting. I knew casting-wise I was never going to be on Breaking Bad. Like, I just don't look methy enough for that world. And when I got the call for Manhattan auditions, I knew that's something that I could do because I knew it was about New England looking people for a New Mexico world. And so I spent a couple months, 3 summers ago in the New Mexico market booking jobs, and then 2 summers ago the same thing. And then last summer I shot a show there, but that actually I booked out here. So we'll talk about like what that means for people financially and credit-wise, booking out here versus booking in Los Angeles. So for you guys?
I, Lauren Myers, was also born and raised in New Mexico.
Where at?
In Albuquerque. I went to school actually in Orange County and at Chapman, and I was going to move to LA, or actually was looking at grad schools. And
Did you study acting?
I studied, yes.
Theater.
I got my BFA in theater. Great. To go before that even, I mean, I was auditioning for commercials when I was like 7.
Yeah.
In New Mexico.
Okay.
For the longest time. I was kind of always involved in the film market and like booked like my first feature professional film when I was 8. After college, I had to move back to New Mexico to get reconstructive jaw surgery.
Ah, lovely.
Yes.
Yay.
And this was right when the season 2 of Breaking Bad was starting. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, however, the market crashed. Everything is real interesting everywhere, but especially in New Mexico.
And we'll not just talk about the market, so people know market crash is the financial market in addition to the writer's strike. They sort of happened at the same time. Right?
Yeah, and the SAG Guild.
And the SAG
was threatening a strike too.
That's correct.
And then I literally spent the next 8 years slowly becoming more involved. Also got on Manhattan. That turned into 2 seasons of a developed character, which was really awesome. Along with some few other bookings, decided to move out to LA in August of last year. 2016.
Great. So you've been out here not quite a year.
No, yeah.
Oh, exciting. Good.
Yeah.
And Courtney?
Courtney Cunningham, and I am actually from New York. 10 years ago, I left New York. My intention was to go to LA, and I had a few months between my lease ending in Brooklyn and going on a summer tour with a solo show that I was touring at the time. And so I have a sister in New Mexico, so I thought, oh, I'll go to New Mexico and hang out for a few months. I met a guy, and I got into a relationship. And so I went on my tour and then came back, figured, what the heck, I'll hang out in New Mexico for a little while. And so I wound up being in New Mexico for about 3 years, and wound up getting into the union in New Mexico. I did a lot of indies and short films, and then started really kind of booking in the industry. But because my intention had always been to come out to LA after about 3 years, I still kind of had to pursue that. It's been in the past few years that I've kind of, been able to go back to New Mexico and continue that relationship with the industry there.
In booking some jobs over there, building resume credits, things like that.
Yeah,
that's been very good for all three of us, I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk about just the general environment of New Mexico. How many agents, casting directors, and jobs generally? New Mexico is fucking on fire as far as like amount of production happening.
Yeah.
There is like a billion things, and just to give a sort of qualifying understanding of that is that like I had lunch with my agent, this was like a year or two ago in New Mexico, and it was like 11 o'clock on a Wednesday, and she took a phone call and she came back and she said, I just scheduled my 200th audition for the week. 200 by Wednesday at 11 is a lot of numbers.
I think we have 4 agencies. And then as far as casting directors, we have Joanna Bolden, Kira Arai, Angelique Midthunder, and Kathy Brink, as well as
some smaller ones.
But
those are really the 4.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the environment is like over there. Can you get guest stars as a local hire? Can you get guest star pay as a local hire? Can you get recurring, regular guest star type roles? So not just where they bring you back, but where they bring you back and they pay you. So I'll just start. I know that's a lot. That's a lot. But I just let's talk about the scene, right?
Yeah.
I just want to say, cost of living in New Mexico is so cheap, you guys, unless you're moving to like parts of Santa Fe or Taos. But in general, if you're in the like Albuquerque market, if you've lived in LA or you've lived in New York, living in Albuquerque is like living for free.
What I will say to that, though, because when I moved from New York, I had that expectation. Because again, I had family there, and so she had kind of told me a similar story. So I expected, cost of living is just going to be a lot cheaper, but I'm still going to have the same income.
Right.
But my income, and this has nothing to do with the industry.
No, this is just
this
general
was just
New
my
Mexico.
general income was significantly lower than what I was making in Manhattan.
That's
so
correct.
even though I was paying less for rent, I was earning less
That's correct.
at my day job
in New Mexico.
So
that's right.
It was kind of proportionate.
It does. It is proportionate. But what I will say, as far as like SAG-AFTRA minimums, right. So yes, for your day job, you're going to make a lot less waiting tables in Albuquerque than you are waiting tables in Manhattan or Los Angeles.
Yeah, right.
However, if you're getting minimum scale for certain jobs in Los Angeles, that won't get you anything here, and that will get you a little bit farther in New Mexico. So let's talk about guest stars versus co-stars. Do they get guest stars over there?
There's a few auditions here and there.
But do the people in Albuquerque book them?
Yes. I guess it depends on how it's credited, because I feel like there was a role that I recently auditioned for I did not get. The woman who did get it, she's credited as a guest star.
Yes.
I don't know if she has that written correctly on her resume. It was not billed to me when I auditioned for it. It was not billed as a
guest star.
Well,
I have a story about that. I was talking to a girl on set when working on a local show in New Mexico, and this is an actress. I won't name her name because I'm going to call her out. But I talked to her about the difference between Los Angeles and New Mexico. We were talking about guest star credit, and she said that for a part that she had auditioned for, that they had to fight for a guest star credit. And I said, oh, that may be because of pay and residuals and all that. And she said, oh no, they're not changing the pay. So what she got was guest star credit, but she did not get guest star actual money.
Yep, that sounds about right.
That's correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have asked for a guest star credit on a specific role, and it was denied because they said they couldn't credit me as a guest star without giving me the pay.
Yes.
They wouldn't negotiate one or the other, even though what I did was very obviously a guest star role.
Right. That is very common, and what I think people need to understand, both people who are working currently in the New Mexico market now and people who are thinking about going to the New Mexico market, is the reason why people go to New Mexico is because they want a discount.
Yep. You mean production.
Production.
Yes. Yeah.
The reason why production goes to New Mexico is they want a discount. I think people have an idea that if they're just really good, that they'll get the role if they're a local hire. And conversely, if they're just really good for the smaller part, they'll get the role even though they're not a local hire. But I think people have to understand there's both casting and money, and those really take a real precedent as far as what decisions are being made. So
I see that happening here too.
Tell me about that.
Just because I coach actors on auditions, and I see a lot of them coming in with 7 pages of material, and it's a co-star. So I do see, I totally understand what you're saying about New Mexico, and I also feel like it's a trend lately within the industry of not wanting to pay for the larger roles. So they're gonna push how far they can go with like, oh, this is a co-star.
Right. Well, what I tell people in general about that is that it's not in their best interest to guest star it unless they feel like they have to. And if they guest star it, it's usually because they want offers. And so they'll offer it out. And it's better for them to have a co-star for 7 pages and have somebody accept it. And then if they say, hey, I want guest star money, it's better for them to go into that negotiation than to take the risk that they'll just take it as a co-star. But if they go ahead and say guest star first, then they lose that option. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Right.
Yes.
That was a long way to go about it, you guys. I hope you've all followed that. And so let's talk about the theater scene. Is there an equity theater scene there?
Is it equity?
No, right?
There's a theater scene for sure.
There's
There
definitely a
is.
theater scene.
It's not equity.
It's not equity. And what's interesting with Albuquerque is this one particular theater. They still actually. They also try to bring out people from LA or New York, and they make a big deal out of it.
Yes.
Which
It'll sell tickets.
It'll sell tickets. It also, as someone who was like trying to run like a homegrown theater company, ruffled my feathers.
Yeah, I mean, the homegrown thing is interesting because at the end of the day, there's like local pride, which is a real thing in New Mexico. There's a lot of local pride, but there's also flash, right? So you have local pride, but then it's like cool if you get somebody from LA or New York.
Right.
And those two are always at war, right? When you're dealing with the local market.
And I think one thing that people forget when it comes to theater and equity theater is that the union makes a difference.
The union does
you know,
make a difference.
Geographically speaking, it is hard for actors to travel sometimes in New Mexico because it's a big state.
Yeah. Yes.
And because it is, it does not. I unfortunately think that the union doesn't take into account the tiny percentage of equity actors in New Mexico. So when it comes to contracts that you have to do as a theater company, it's not in favor of the producers at all, which in my opinion, having worked with a theater company, therefore does not benefit the actors either, because it makes us not want to do an equity contract because we literally can't afford it.
I mean, that's the whole union discussion in general.
Yeah.
Right? Is that union is to help the person getting the job, but makes it thereby harder for the person giving the job.
Right.
And there is the controversy of that. So is it possible for people to make a living out of acting and live in New Mexico?
Yes and no. After I was done with Manhattan, I was still going back to auditioning for one-line co-stars.
That's right.
And when I tried to turn those down and say I really only want to go out for bigger roles, then I wasn't auditioning.
They don't care. I mean, the truth is they don't care about you.
Yeah.
That's the truth, is because the fact that you had a nice big role in Manhattan, they're still in Albuquerque for discount.
Yeah.
So they just don't care. So let's say somebody's living in LA right now and they're having a thing and they're thinking, well, maybe I should move to New Mexico. What do you think is the benefit to moving to New Mexico for an actor? Who would it benefit?
It would benefit people who I think need co-star credits, who are just not getting those film and TV credits out in LA. And then I would say go to a local market like New Mexico and use that to your advantage to just start to get a little of those more recognizable credits.
Right. Is there anybody that you feel like type-wise does really well in New Mexico over anyone else?
White men.
White men?
When I was there, part of why I was okay with leaving was because at that time, and this was close to 7 years ago, I felt because I wasn't a cowboy, my roles were really limited. I feel like that's changed a lot, but I do agree that you're better off if you're a
white male.
White middle-aged male.
I would say white middle-aged male. I would also say Asian. I know my agents feel like there's just no Asian actors in New Mexico that are trained. Yeah. There's a lot of roles that need Asian actors, or would be interesting with Asian, Indian,
Middle Eastern for sure.
Middle Eastern
actors will, because they film so many war movies out there, and because everything having to do with the Middle East is huge right now. I know they were struggling when they were trying to cast, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Horse soldiers, like the Middle Eastern guys.
Would definitely do very well. And women.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, what is the detriment to working in the New Mexico market? I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel the detriment can be that then it's hard to get up to the next level.
Yeah.
And so what I have experienced, and part of why I like the three of us from three different connections to New Mexico, right? Is I think that a lot of people who come from the New Mexico market feel like they have these credits, they're going to come here, and it's like, I've got these credits, people are going to take me seriously. And then they move here and people don't care. And I feel part of why I was able to do well, sort of just accidentally working between the two markets, is because I was already here and had already built a bunch of relationships in Los Angeles, both in representation and in casting directors and in directors, that once I was able to get a few really legitimate credits through New Mexico and continue to use that to help bump up my resume, that just allowed my relationships in Los Angeles to take advantage of me. But it still is very much about who you know as much as what you know here. And so if you, well, and in New Mexico too.
Yeah.
It's just easier to get to know people sooner there
there's-
because there's less people to get to know.
Yeah.
So it's like who you know, right? And I would also say my experience in New Mexico is that you still have to be right for the job, but getting the audition is easier.
Yes, that's
So
Absolutely.
you
have access.
audition and get a lot of no's just like you do here, but your access to those auditions is greater.
Yes,
I think a lot of people move from LA to the smaller markets and think that everyone's going to be like, you're a serious actor, welcome to all these parts.
Yeah. And I think for me, because I see so many similarities with both markets, and I think that as an actor, you have to just be really smart about your career. Because I see people in this market with similar attitudes, you know, like I did this and I'm going to book this and making a living out here can be impossible, you know, because you were saying, can you survive? Yeah, can you survive in New Mexico as an actor? Can you survive here as an actor? I've only been here 7 years, and I've had several friends who have called it and just said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I want to have a kid, or I want to
making
go
a living
home.
as an actor in general is hard.
Absolutely.
What I just try to do is to clarify for people, because people think that that LA will solve their problems and New Mexico will solve their problems.
And it doesn't. You still have to be good. You're still competing against thousands of actors, even if you have access to roles, which is great. That's a great reason to be there. And actually, no, people in both markets, people in New Mexico could have this attitude, and people in LA can have that attitude of, well, I'm in LA, so I can, stuff will just happen because I'm here. Or maybe New Mexico, well, I'm in New Mexico, I have access, so things are going to happen. You know, but you still have to do the work no matter where you are.
That's right.
For me, granted, I've been here less than a year. What I have found personally thus far is that the credits I have not yet so far booked me any work here. It allowed me to get really good reps, but I'm still figuring out, oh no, I still have to make those relationships. I still have to make those contacts.
It's a problem, and that's part of why I wanted you here, because I want people who go from smaller markets to have to hear from you that just because you have sometimes really great credits and resume things because of your local market, that doesn't mean that helps you book jobs out here.
No, I'm still trying to network and contact people.
You're still in line, is what I tell people.
Yeah.
Like you're in line. Yeah. Like there are people ahead of you have worked those relationships just for a few more years than you have.
Yeah.
And also have credits, and you're just kind of in line.
Yeah.
And you might be more ahead in line because you have credits and you're not coming out here without anything, but you're still in line.
One of the biggest differences with LA is that here, just people live and breathe it every day. I mean, you cannot go through your day without bumping into 10 actors.
Yeah, that's right.
Your waiter's an actor.
Your neighbor's an actor. The person you're sleeping with is an actor. Everyone's
your pediatrician is an actor.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but out there, maybe because it's not living and breathing it as much, then there's a hunger for it. So then there's all these people that are creating, and that's I love that about that market.
Yeah, there's an appreciation for it.
Yeah, whereas here
it's exciting
because you bump into it all the time. Then you can kind of get lazy out here, and you're not creating as much as you...
I think you can feel unspecial out here, is what I would say. And that when you're in the smaller market, it's still exciting.
Yeah.
People feel like, oh, are you going to be famous?
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. And out here,
it's
it's
like... beat down pretty quick out here.
I mean, it's not even beat down. It's just nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like not even beat down, right? Because they'd have to be passionate enough to beat you down.
Right.
They don't even have that. They're just like, it's just nonplussed.
Well,
it's so normal.
when you go to auditions out there, and you walk into a room, it's we're all the same because we're all female,
right?
We're all going, but here I will walk
they
into
all
a
look
casting
exactly
office
like you.
with 10 doppelgangers.
I know.
And just want to cry into my pillow.
People really don't understand. I mean, that to me is what's so interesting about the local market is that, yeah, it's like women in your general age span, 10 years plus, 10 years minus.
Yeah.
And then here, it's like to the height, usually to the weight, to the freckles on my face.
Right.
Like we are in the same group. But I want to speak to that. I had an agent out here who said, and I thought this was really smart, he said, when you start getting into rooms with all the same people, that's when you know you're in a good place because then they figured out what to do with you. And what happens is somebody will book that job and then they're out. Yeah. Then they're out of the race. And then you get a little bit more up in the bump and then you book a job and then you're out of the race. Right. And so when you start to see the same 10 to 20 people at every audition, that's a really good sign. But wait, Lauren, Courtney, wait. I have to interrupt you.
It's time for Shit Your Reps Won't Tell You. Real advice from real agents.
Dear actor, don't keep telling me you nailed auditions and then never get callbacks. Thanks.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So when is it time to move to LA for New Mexico actors? Who do you recommend go to LA?
That's an interesting question because having been out here for a while, sometimes I'll hear New Mexico actors that are consistently booking get excited about coming to LA, and I'm looking at them going, why?
Yeah, don't
don't. Yeah. Like, don't. You have such a good thing.
Yeah,
yeah. But there is that kind of like, you always want to,
expand,
go to the next level.
Right.
I think it's whenever you think you're ready and you're ready to take that next step, but I think there's a lot of humility that has to go
with it, because I will say, I think people, if you're used to the New Mexico market, then you're used to a higher audition ratio and a higher booking ratio. Yeah. And when I try to tell New Mexico actors that that's not the way it goes down here, I think a lot of them think that, A, I don't know what I'm talking about, B, maybe I'm bitter or jaded, or maybe I'm just not good, or maybe I'm all those things, so they can sort of justify in their heads why I would be wrong. They come out here and then they go right back.
Audrey's never wrong.
You will all learn. I'm never wrong.
I think that's why for me it comes back to, are you playing the long game or not?
Yeah.
No matter where you are. Because you could come out here and, in your eyes, quote unquote, fail. Right. And then go back and have an incredible career out there in New Mexico. Yes. And the same, it's like you could try to go out there, feel like you're going to get a couple co-stars, and it doesn't work. And then you come back here, and because that ignited some sort of fire in you, then you've got this passion when you come out here. I think you really, no matter where you are, you have to be playing the long game. I was out there having a discussion with some actors once, and they were discussing the sort of stigma of being a local actor. Yep. I don't know if this is just idealistic of me or not, but at the end of the day, we all just want to work. We all just want to work, no matter where you are. So that's why, again, you just have to be smart. And if you have a passion to come out to LA and try it for a few years, I think coming out and saying I'm going to try it for a year is silly. Yeah. Because you need a few years to come out here and really take a stab at it.
Yeah, and I want to address that sort of stigma for the New Mexico listeners listening who have that feeling of like they just want to be taken more seriously in New Mexico. And I just want to say to the New Mexico actors that that's really on you guys in your community, and you have to be working with your other actors to make sure that everybody understands what being professional is, how to be professional, and what those standards are. And I think that what happens is a lot of the really professional actors sort of stick together, and then they get cast in a lot of the same things, and they think of themselves as we're so fabulous and we're so great, so why don't people take us more seriously? But they don't realize there's still that other half of the actors out there who just don't really even understand what's happening. I mean, it's not personal. They just don't understand that they're part of a really big machine and that there are certain standards that they have to go by. And then when they act unprofessionally or behave unprofessionally, it makes the New Mexico actor look bad as a whole. Right. And that affects those who are very professional, which there are many in the New Mexico market. Yeah. And so if you listening are part of the professional part of the New Mexico actor and you feel that people aren't taking you seriously, my recommendation is that you take your other actors that you feel aren't on your level and you do what you can do to influence them and to bring them up
Right.
And not to leave them in the dust because they're not as cool as you are, not as good as you are. But in bringing them up to a professional level, you will strengthen the legitimacy of the whole market.
Right. Yeah.
So, Lauren, how has the transition been? Has it been harder than you expected? The same? Easier?
For me, it's the cost of living. That transition to moving out here, like, really kind of kicked me in the butt.
Yeah.
So I'm just now kind of getting out of that kind of hole.
I think people can't understand it until if you're from New Mexico, I just want to really make clear that if you're transitioning to Los Angeles, it's gonna be shocking. I mean, for me, I moved to Boston first, and I remember being horrified, but I was 18 and that feels like a normal age to be horrified. And so when you're a grown-ass person, and then you make that transition, I think it's very hard.
Yeah, everyone tried to warn me, and it's not until I experienced it that I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to not be able to go out because I don't have money for gas.
That's right.
I haven't gotten as many LA auditions here as I kind of hoped I would, but the ones I've gotten, they've been bigger than the ones I got in New Mexico.
That's right. The quality is better.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing about the business for you guys?
For me, sometimes it's just sticking with it and not letting it emotionally
destroy you.
Yeah. I've gone through many phases of that relationship.
I think the hardest part is not not allowing the setbacks, the negativity, the no's, the rejection affect my value and my worth and how I value myself.
What is the best thing about the business for you?
For me, it all comes down to getting to share stories that matter.
I think for me, it's the community. When you're on set and it's just buzzing and everybody, we finish this take and then these people swoop in and they do their job and then they're done and then the next group comes in and they do their job. And just to see how it's just this
symphony.
And it's just this well-oiled machine and you're a part of it and you're adding. I think that when you're younger or newer, you can feel like everyone's looking at you like, oh, and it's this there's a lot of fear in it. But once you kind of get into the groove of it, it's like, no, everyone wants this to work. Everyone wants this production to succeed.
And why acting?
The first thing that popped into my head was just there's nothing else. I
think it's the exact same answer because
whatever.
No, because same thing. I've been involved in it since I was very young.
What do you wish someone had taught you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a dreamer or a student?
That it's a business.
Yeah.
That it's an absolute business.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
It's because I want people in college, people in other markets, people who don't have. I feel that the people best qualified to help people are people really in the business and not famous people.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Which I think goes along with what you guys are saying, but when you really think about what that means, when you really think, and a lot of this is because I have ran a marathon and everything I learned from that, it's no, when you're in it for the long haul, you will learn things along the way that maybe influence your course, change your course a little bit, but really what you're doing is you're gathering tools.
Yes.
You're gathering.
Getting a little bit better. You're finding out what you didn't know. You're getting a little bit better. You're finding out what you didn't know.
You're keeping a steady pace.
Yes. Yeah. What is your biggest struggle right now, personally or professionally?
I feel like I just got out of the financial struggle. I'm just getting out of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of stumping me because
everything's a struggle.
Everything is a struggle, and there is that sense of surrender.
Okay, so we're going to give you a second to plug yourself on social media or any events that you have coming up.
For Lauren Myers, you can find me at my website, which is laurenmyers.com. All my handles are basically Lauren Myers 99. A couple of films coming out, Granite Mountain and Horse Soldiers.
Great.
In the next few months, maybe even next year.
Courtney Cunningham. Yeah, there's a few things coming out, but not for a while. So, and then you can find me on Instagram at Courtney Cunningham Official, which is so lame. My niece chose it. She's like, there's other Courtney Cunninghams. You are the Courtney Cunningham Official.
I like that. Okay, so then I end with mildly interesting.
I have been listening to the Harry Potter and the Sacred Text podcast. And it has been one of the things that has like kind of saved me here in LA, and being like a huge Harry Potter fan. I love it so much, and I'm going to their live show in June.
How exciting.
Yeah, so if you are a Harry Potter fan, I highly recommend it. And then just reread the books because they're awesome.
Very good.
I've just recently listened to S-Town, and I thought it was
yes.
amazing.
Good.
And it's been going along this theme. I've been watching a lot of documentaries, and it's, I feel like as an actor sometimes we can be like, I'm gonna play the pretty roles, although I never get the pretty roles.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always got like blood on me or something.
Right.
And I've been watching or dead. But I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately, and I watched Solitary on HBO.
I'm going to plug Postagram. Mine is business related. Okay, so Postagram is an app, you guys, that is on your cellular device. And what's really great about it is, you know, you send postcards to people because you're a good actor and you want to like let them know you're doing something. Or I often send like a thank you postcard after I've booked something from somebody. And what's great about Postagram is that it's $1 each, and you can also get lots of like things for free, so you can get a bunch of them for free. And it has a little space for a picture and then a little space for a message. And so what I like to do is, if I'm like in the trailer for a job I booked, I just do a Postagram while I'm sitting there waiting to go thank the casting director. And I take like a picture of me in my costume.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, here I am, look at me. You cast me in this.
That's
Thanks. Great. But when you do postcards, usually it's like you have to make 50 of them, and then you have to write out the message by hand. And then a lot of times people take shortcuts by doing, you know, the computer little stickies to post in the back, but then it's not really personalized. And this is nice because it takes no time at all. It's connected to your address book, so all your addresses are already in it, which is really nice. It's $1 a pop, which I think is really, really great. And the best part is the picture part of the Postagram, you can probably Google it and see for yourself, pops out into a little square picture that also has the message that you wrote on the back of that little square picture. So that if they want to keep your little picture as like, I cast so-and-so in this thing, then they have that and they can put it on their computer, or they can tape it to their wall, or they can whatever. Because I know casting directors like to be thanked, though not necessarily given gifts, but thanked for that. And I think also they like to see like what you looked like and how it came together. And that to me is, I can also do them when I'm waiting for auditions, which is really nice. So if I have something airing like on a Sunday and I have an audition, then I'll just make a bunch of Postagrams for people in my like favorites list that are people I have contacts with. And it's just a really easy way to do it, so I don't have to like get somebody to make the image for me, then order them online, then wait for them and go pick them up, or wait for them to get delivered to me, and then write out all the things individually for everyone, and then get stamps and then mail them out. Like, nobody will do that, but this, you can just do it all from your phone.
Interesting. Nice.
I super recommend it. All right, thank you so much, ladies. You got it. Yay. But wait, Lauren, Courtney, wait. I have to interrupt you.
And now it's time for the new show rundown.
So today's fall episodic that we're going to discuss is something called Yellowstone. Yellowstone. It is starring Kevin Costner. It's in conjunction with the Weinstein brothers. It's a project about a wandering herd of cattle trigger a dispute between tribal police and the Montana Livestock Association with harrowing repercussions. They're harrowing, you guys, these repercussions. It films in Utah and Montana, and the word on the street is the cast is all over the place as far as ages are concerned. They cast a lot of kids. They cast people in their 30s. They cast people in their 50s. They cast people in their 80s. So that's really great. It is about ranchers, Native Americans is what I'm told. If that seems like your world's the horse cattle universe, then that's something to keep in mind. It is cast by John Papsidera. John Papsidera is one of the top casting directors in Los Angeles. He cast Westworld, Ray Donovan, Casual, Oath, tons of feature films. He's super great. His office is so nice, so sweet. If you've booked through John Papsidera before, I recommend that if this seems like something that you would be right for, then go ahead and give your agents a little email telling them that you heard about it. I would Google Yellowstone on Deadline, see what it's all about, and just let them know that you think you'd be really great for it and to push you for it. They're not shooting until August, I believe, so it would be really helpful for you to get in. Book it. Book those jobs. Oh, book it. Book it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Hi, Andy.
Hello, Audrey.
Hi, you guys. So, I'm Audrey Moore, and this is
Andy Cameron.
And today we are doing our Chicago episode. I'm doing a series of podcasts about different locations, small market, big market. And I think a lot of people are interested in Chicago. And a lot of people are also interested in leaving Chicago. So we're going to talk about those two dynamics. Talk about where you and I know each other from.
Troop 1174, if we want to get technical.
I can't believe you just said that. We went to high school together, you guys. And we did plays in high school.
That's right, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
So you just moved here from Chicago how many days ago?
13 days ago, so almost 2 weeks.
13
days
ago, you guys.
Yeah.
Fresh off the boat. Andy Cameron arrives. I could say that you know a lot about the Chicago market. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I feel fairly comfortable with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
And why did you go to Chicago in general instead of coming out here to LA in the first place?
I wanted to study improv comedy. There is arguably nowhere better in the world to go for that than Chicago, Illinois. I started off in Improv Olympic right away, then Improv Olympic, post-lawsuit, now the I.O. Theater.
That's correct.
Yeah, I studied at I.O. and was on several Herald teams there, studied some Second City, writing classes as well. I was lucky to have a path recommended and laid out for me by a Second City performer.
Okay.
Named Jen Bills, and they said move to Chicago, study at I.O. first. They strongly recommended I.O. Then you can take Second City classes, and that's what I did, and it really provided a great network.
A lot of support.
It got me an agent.
Good.
Then I just sort of grew and expanded from there. There's lots of amazing theater in Chicago. It's an incredible theater town. It's doing better than New York with developing a lot of new work, just because
That's true.
the price of real estate. Like, you can have a company for almost nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
I say that everyone works very, very hard out there. And
There's a lot. I mean, it's still not cheap,
Yeah.
but it's not New York expensive, and that's a whole different world of expensive. I want to get to know a little bit about the Chicago market. I'm not as familiar with it.
Compared to LA, it's such a small market. Up until recently, we only had 3 major casting companies in town.
Okay.
We had 5, and then 2 of the new ones merged. So we've got 4 big houses.
That's
really
great. That's what I wanted to know. How many casting directors? How many agents are there?
Agencies, I would say under 20. I would say there's 5 or 6 that are really, really great.
Okay.
Ranging from much larger agencies with footprints in LA and New York to smaller boutique agencies, and then options in between. I was with a couple different ones. I was with a very, very large agency where you are one actor amongst many others that looks like you, and they just throw you like a handful of gravel just to see what sticks. But then I moved on to a boutique agency which is a really wonderful experience. And predominantly, those actors are competing for commercial work. There's a lot of commercial work in the city, a lot of big advertising companies.
And are we talking national commercials, or are we talking regional? What are we talking about?
National, regional, non-union. It's a pretty healthy mix. Less national work than lately, I feel like. I feel like that's going sort of back to LA. A lot of agents have said that Chicago actors have been losing the fight with LA actors recently. Yeah. Chicago actors have always been a draw for advertising companies, though, because usually improv and also a quote-unquote real look. I am paler, I am rounder, I am gentler.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if part of why they're going back to the LA market is because the LA is becoming more of that way. The standard of being hyper stunning in LA has really dissipated, I would say, over the last 10 years. And there will always, listen, if you're beautiful out there, there's always a place for you in this business. But I think in general, the market has gone towards, we like to see real faces. We like to see real people.
Great.
People want someone that they can relate to. And that is permeating not just the commercial market, but also the whole of film and television and commercials.
That's great to hear. I can cross achieve hyper stunning off my list.
Okay, very good. Okay, good. You're hyper stunning to all of us.
Aww.
Oh, very good. 3 casting directors, just so you guys know, who aren't yet in the business. That's compared to, I think, the 240 something that is in Los Angeles.
That's crazy.
And I don't think that's including commercials. There's 240 something just theatrical casting directors, not including just the casting directors who just do commercials.
Oh my gosh.
Because usually the two don't cross.
Sure.
Do Chicago local actors get guest star roles? Are those usually farmed out to New York and Los Angeles? What's the story with that?
I would say, I mean, the vast majority of TV roles available to Chicago actors are going to be day player roles, local higher status. But there are some guest star roles out there. And I would say 1 or 2 series regulars as well.
Okay. That's a little bit better than some of the smaller markets like New Mexico or like Atlanta, where a lot of people I know find frustration because they go to those markets and then they get lots of initial credits and they find out that they may go out for guest stars because they're really good, but they're always losing those roles to LA and New York actors, and usually LA.
Sure.
Is that what you find?
Yeah, that resonates with me, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I hear about the theater scene. I hear it's fantastic, but I hear a lot of the best parts of the theater scene is kind of fucked out there because a lot of that is farmed out to New York. So a lot of the New York casting directors are still bringing in for the bigger roles for Steppenwolf and those sorts of size theaters.
Yeah,
those are all still New York hires.
Large equity houses are bringing in a lot of New York talent, and that's been a chief issue in Chicago theater. Diversity has been a really big issue in Chicago theater lately.
Tell me about that.
I mean, whitewashing and casting, much like it's an issue in film and TV.
Yeah.
Chicago theater, it's been a big issue. There was a notorious production of In the Heights that
That's crazy.
had a white lead, the city was essentially lit on fire.
Yes. And tell people about In the Heights. Who wrote In the Heights?
In the Heights was Lin-Manuel Miranda,
who is now responsible for
Hamilton.
Right.
So yeah, you can imagine a show that is exists to elevate
diverse
teens'
casting.
Voices. Yeah, and then to have that
big question for people who are considering where to move, and I really want to a good solid thorough answer as you can get on this one. Is anyone making enough money as an actor to live reasonably well in Chicago? Is that a possible thing? Listen, in general it's not overly possible in life, right? But I do find that the LA market seems to me to be the most possible out of many of the markets.
Sure.
Some of the smaller markets like Atlanta and New Mexico, the cost of living is quite a bit lower, and so you're making maybe less money, but your cost of living is small, versus Chicago, where your cost of living is a bit higher and still you're not making maybe the big actor money. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, so in that Venn diagram of cost of living on one side and opportunities to act, Chicago does have a relatively good overlap.
Great.
I had a glorious 1,000 square foot apartment right off the lake, really affordable, safe area, close to public transit. I was living very, very well over there for the money, and had a lot of opportunities. However, to hit that threshold of your solely an actor, that's where it does get really tough in Chicago. That's why I ultimately chose to leave and relocate to Los Angeles.
Because most of those roles are the larger roles, and those roles are still being taken out by Los Angeles and New York actors.
There are, and even in Chicago itself, it's very competitive for even to be a day player in a TV series.
Yes,
you can go in for a commercial and you're going to be one of 20 actors for a role. For a day player, you're one of 5. So getting in the room is a victory, as we always say.
But that seems particularly true there.
Yeah.
Because getting in the room for a day player here, you're still one of 20 to 30.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Who would you recommend move to Chicago? What kind of person, what part of time in their life? If somebody's graduating from college right now.
If you're graduating from college, I'd say it's an ideal place to go to.
Okay, why is that?
Affordable cost of living.
Okay.
The opportunities to study and learn and grow, really in any kind of venue. If you want to explore theater, there's so many amazing non-equity theater companies. You'll be acting for a very small stipend. You'll pick up $75.
You won't be making money.
You won't be making money. You'll be working with amazing people, and you'll be making those connections. Every weird little show I've done that's I did a show that was in a loft space above a Family Dollar, and I, made friends, made connections from that show, which led to even better and more exciting things. And it led to an HBO web series on HBO Go. So, again, any avenue, improv, sketch, theater. You have commercial film voiceover.
Yeah, that's great. That's good that you say that, because when I think of Chicago, I think of a higher cost of living. Mm-hmm. So it's good to hear you say that that's not necessarily true.
Well, I mean, it's all relative. Like, if you're coming from, like, the middle of Missouri or something like that, yeah, you are going to be shocked by the cost of, like, a pizza in Chicago.
Yes.
But it is, so...
But it's not New York or LA.
It's not New York or LA. As far as the big 3 cities, Chicago is the most affordable.
So why move to LA now? And also, why move to LA now versus a little bit sooner or a little bit later?
So the one goal I set to myself before moving to Los Angeles was get my SAG card, and which I did. And then I held off a little bit longer, partially because of fear, and nervousness. But that was why I waited. And then also, got some credits under my belt, and felt comfortable around a film set and TV set. It became time for me to move on.
Do you feel like you hit a cap in Chicago?
I feel like I did hit a ceiling. Yeah.
And did you feel like you could have maybe gone through that ceiling, but it would have maybe not been worth it?
Well, personally, I have this belief. I don't know if it's legit or not, but I always felt like once I hit middle age is when I'll really hit my stride, just for my type and everything. And I think there's more chances to practice and keep at it out here in Los Angeles. If I wanted to stick around and wait in Chicago, I could, but realistically, I want to start a family, and so I want to be able to make a living doing what I love.
But tell me what you mean by more chances to keep at it.
More commercial roles, more day player roles here and there. I'm the nurse. That was my thing in Chicago. The nurse on Chicago Fire, a couple episodes. Nurse on Empire. Yeah. So there's lots of nurse roles out in Los Angeles.
So what are you coming here with? Do you have an agent? You said you're SAG. You have a savings. You have credits. You have a reel. Like, what are your tools that you're coming armed with?
I have a commercial reel. Good. And I have a theatrical reel. Great. And before I moved out here, I had a deal set up with a commercial agency, which I signed with last week. So, I was able to hit the ground running, so to speak.
Fantastic.
They're pitching and hustling for me right now.
Fantastic.
To get me out there.
Do you want to share with anyone who that is?
It's the DDO Artist Agency.
So here's the big question I think a lot of people want to know about improv. So now that you're a big improv master, you've done all the improv in the world, if you were going to go to the Groundlings today, are you going to have to start at level 1?
Yeah.
Now, if you do IO out here, are you going to have to start at level 1?
I think you can move on to 2. You can also, you can audition or get written permission at UCB.
Okay.
To move on to 201. This has been my learning curve recently.
Oh, you didn't know this?
I mean, I had a feeling. Because I know how these theaters pay their bills.
I know.
Yeah.
See, to me, it is the great scam of improv communities, and I think it is such a tragedy because somebody like you, who has already put in 14 years of improv, clearly doesn't need to pay somebody $370 for a 6 to 8 week class of improv. And I understand maybe wanting somebody to start at level 3 or something like that because maybe they want you to learn like the Groundlings way versus the Second City way. And I know that each school has its like stamp, and I understand and I get that. But I really think it's too bad because I think that actors lose a lot of money, a lot of time, and I think the improv schools, honestly, they miss out. I think that they miss out on some people that I think would have been really great. But the idea of like starting back again at level 1 Groundlings improv, which is like they added 2 more levels like a few years ago, so now it's like a fucking 6-year fucking process, right?
I've heard with like a year-long waiting list to get to those
upper levels. You'll get through Juilliard 3 times before you'll get through Groundlings main company,
But which has more cachet in your special skills slot?
I don't know.
A Juilliard degree or Groundlings?
Both. I think both. I think they equally... I mean, listen, they're both valuable. I'm not knocking Groundlings. If you get to the Groundlings main company, that can be a really sweet deal for a lot of people.
I guess I had a wow, I really drank the Kool-Aid moment when I was going through like my Screen Actors Guild orientation.
Yes.
Right when I signed, it's like guys, the goal of the union is everything you do, you should be compensated for. Everything you do. And then I'm like, I raise my hand, I'm like, it's like, yes, question. I'm like, what if I just want to throw something funny up on YouTube? And then she just rolls her eyes and say, ugh, improvisers always want to work for free. And
Thank you.
I was just like appalled at that. I was like, no, we do not. But I mean, and I guess the defense from the improv perspective is that there is an onus on us as improvisers to also be creators.
You can get paid to be creators, though. Here's the thing about the community, the theater community, and the improv community is guilty as charged. But the thing I tell people when they're like, why do you love LA? I said, you know why I love LA? Because LA is the place where artists go to say, fuck you, pay me.
Yay.
And I want to be around those people.
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful because it's not just actors. It's not just the actors. It's all of them. It's art department. It's editing. It's sound design. The entirety of this business is wrapped in creativity, and filmmaking as a general whole, which includes television or any of it, is so many creative skills coming together. And the people who choose LA are the people who are like, I'm skilled and it is worth money. You got to get your money. But that's what I'm saying about this town. It's like, I'm not here to work for free. Because here's the thing, is the studios will get you for free if they can. And so it's your job to say no.
But wait, Andy, wait. I have to interrupt you.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you shit you didn't know about your union.
So today we have a SAG little hint to you guys. I've been talking a lot about filing claims through the claims department. This is so big. If you have done a television show, particularly one on cable, and you've never gotten your residuals, I want you to call SAG and find out if you should have gotten residuals. A lot of what happened over the last couple of years is that AFTRA was doing old contracts, and so a lot of people didn't think that their television shows should be giving them residuals because they didn't know, is it an AFTRA contract? Is it a SAG contract? Is it a SAG-AFTRA contract? And so people just didn't research. I have a friend who researched a show. She was calling forever to try and find out just if they were going to have residuals at all. A year later, you guys, she finally gets to the bottom of it, and she has to talk to somebody's boss's boss, and she finds out that yes, they are owed residuals. And I just want you to know that out of the entire cast for all of season 1 of the show, only one person made a claim, and it was her. And if she hadn't made that claim, nobody would have gotten residuals. But because of her, the entire cast of season 1 got residuals. So I know that your gut reaction is like, well, what the fuck, SAG? Like, why aren't you on top of it? And where's my residuals? And why aren't you looking after all that? What you guys don't understand is there are so many shows and so many movies and so many commercials. I know that it would be like this ideal world if you had your own accountant who is looking over all of your residuals. But the fact is as an actor, you are your own business. And it's your job to follow your money. And don't assume that because you didn't get your money that it isn't supposed to come to you. File a claim. Like I said, 90% of all claims filed through SAG-AFTRA result in money owed to the actor, which is just like so crazy. And the more that we report claims, the more these companies get caught. And the more they get caught, then the more they're on the SAG's radar to be paying attention to them and make sure that they're not doing shady dealings. Actors tend to be uninformed and a little bit apathetic. And the people who win out from that situation is the production companies who don't end up paying you the money that you're worth. The money that SAG has fought for you to get. But you have to know your contracts. You have to know the SAG contracts. You have to know the contracts you signed, and then you have to make sure you get your money. All right, go get your money.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
What scares you about moving out here?
Driving.
Driving?
I'm so spoiled. I have public transportation everywhere. I don't know. Like I'm rapidly learning. It's like the little section where I can jump on the 405 isn't really the 405. It's just the on ramp to the 101, and
yes.
I have to. So I'm sort of figuring out that stuff. And, I am a little bit nervous too. Like I'm clearly a character type, and I know I'm not competing for leading men things,
sure.
But just like as a waiter,
Yeah.
like if
When or why do you recommend people move out to LA?
I'll say anyone, especially since you have made me feel more emboldened, things going to that real look, and with that golden age of television that we're in right now, where there's so many platforms, so many networks,
That's right.
so many different niches. Go for for it, and you'll know when the time is right.
And then because you're just moving here, I wanted to ask you, do you have any questions for me?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Oh, how should I go about getting that theatrical agent? And are there peak pickup times and not? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I will say the theatrical agent thing is a real bitch. I mean, I've been blessed not to ever be out here without representation, though my representation has gotten markedly more outstanding as the years have progressed.
Sure.
But I would say now that workshops are dead, I don't really know how anyone's going to get a fucking agent. I mean, I guess we're going to do what we used to do, which is just everyone did plays or they performed at these Groundlings, Second City, things like that. Or you do showcases. I mean, that's what people did before workshops. I mean, I had a girlfriend over here a week or two ago and we were discussing her rise in Los Angeles. She said it took her 7 years to get an agent.
Wow.
7 years to get a theatrical agent. Now that it won't take you that long. There's actual reasons why it took her that long. Even people who come from other markets who have, because now see what's happened, everybody, you guys, is that everyone's coming from other markets because they're like, I have credits now, and so everyone feels emboldened. And I think maybe 2 to 3 years ago that had a little more value because that was newer.
Sure.
But now that lots of people are coming from lots of different markets with different credits, the agents are less impressed by that. Whereas maybe 2 to 3 years ago, if you had like 4 credits from Chicago, that'd be like, oh, he's here and he's already got credits and let's go. And now it's like, well, everyone's got credits, so like, what else do you have?
What would you recommend someone push forward? What is that X factor?
I mean, that X factor can be a lot. I do think that your look is an X factor. I do think that you look like a normal person is fantastic. I think your instincts about your age and your look, timing, is correct for you in a lot of ways. And I think your improv background will really serve you. I do think that there's a window of time when you can say, I just moved from Chicago. I've done a lot of improv and I book all this stuff, that people are excited about the possibility of fresh meat. So yeah, I would recommend doing showcases, things like that. I would probably start for you by asking you, what connections do you have in the improv world out here? And then asking those people if they can recommend you. What is the hardest thing about this business for you?
Vulnerability. You know? And we can paint that as broadly as we like, or we can go as detailed as we like. I have embarked on that well-trod yellow brick road called the Artist's Way. I love it. I love my morning pages, and I love the strength it gives me.
Yes,
and,
very good.
You know, so I think, and for some people it's hard, like the rejection of, like going out so much and not booking anything. My greatest fear is like, I'll book something, but then there's that little nasty voice in my head. It's like, you're still wrong for this. You can still lose, so I think quieting that.
Quieting the chaos. Yeah, that's good. And what is the best thing about this business for you?
You play make-believe for a living, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. In general, why acting?
I mean, I never had a choice. I can show you photos going back of like me at the age of 4 and like all my dress-up costumes, you know? I realized I can act out this way, get attention and positive feedback. And it, and that was something that was hard for me to acknowledge. It's like, no, I'm not doing this for like some pure, like altruistic. No, I'm doing it because people clap
like
and they like me. No, that's a very, very real thing. That's not the only thing about it.
That soothes me.
Yeah. I'm not a narcissist, but I'm also,
human.
I'm not lying about it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What do you wish someone had taught you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a dreamer or a student of this profession?
Physical work. I mean, just like movement techniques. I feel very, very in touch with my voice as an instrument, and I can go through a script and find all my intentions, create my through line, that
like
analytical
physical
stuff.
Comedy,
but
or
I don't know, like it's the crunchy granola stuff. Like, as I had 2 professors in college, just to be as brief about this as possible.
No, please.
And one was like, straight Stanislavski method by the book, and it's like there's a strict order to these things.
Yeah.
And then there was another professor who was like, all right, everyone, just put on some clothes you can move in, and we're just going to turn the lights off and we're going to do some sexualized breathing. I'm like, this is... And I really needed to embrace both of those.
Yes, I see.
Yeah.
Both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
What is your biggest struggle right now, personally or professionally?
I know I'm starting all over again, that I had my footprint in Chicago.
Yes.
Everyone, the tiny market that it was knew who I am.
Yes.
I'm very much like, shouting to the winds here. I have one agent, so that's great. I'm not starting with nothing. I still have all my tools and my resources. But yeah, just beginning again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I tell people about moving to either a smaller market from here or a bigger market to here, is that there are advantages and disadvantages of both. And I'll just repeat this again, that one of the advantages to coming to LA and slogging through it, for those of you who are like, do I move to Chicago and make headway in a smaller market and then take that momentum and go to a bigger market, is that when you go ahead and start at the bigger market, you are making those connections with people earlier. And though you may not have the resume to show for it for quite a longer time, you've already got those relationships and connections with people. And I really feel it's really whatever people feel comfortable with. I mean, some people feel more comfortable getting their self-esteem and their resume and credits and stuff going in a smaller market first before they tackle that in a big market. And some people, the idea of going to a smaller market, just doesn't do it for them, and they want to get started on that bigger market sooner. And just so people know, it doesn't appear to me that one is necessarily better than the other. It really is whatever you feel comfortable with, and I see lots of advantages and disadvantages to both sides.
Sure.
Just really depending on who you are.
Yeah, it's certainly a personal choice.
It's a personal choice, and I do feel that there are some people that I think you should have come out here when you were 18. And there are some people that I think you should not have come out here right away. You should have stayed and blah, 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 and gotten some momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I feel very comfortable looking back on my decision so far. I mean, maybe I could have come out here a couple years earlier than I did now, but...
Social media plug? Do you have anything you want to plug?
Oh, yeah, please check out my podcast, Deep Dish. We finished season 1. Season 2 is supposed to begin as soon as we learn how to effectively Skype and record there. So once we climb that technical hill, hiatus will come to an end.
And where can they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Andy Cameron. I'm also a Twitter character, Elijah Hunt Rhodes, a Civil War veteran who had some wonderful things to say about Pepsi recently.
And Mr. is it... How do these spell?
MR Andy Cameron. Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I end with mildly interesting. Do you have anything mildly interesting to share with listeners? This can be recommendations, something inspirational, something you learned, your favorite laundry detergent. I
am weighing the pros and cons of Google Maps versus Waze right now. Personally, I feel that Google Maps is best for your first time in an area because it will tell you, it's like, be in the middle lane. I think once you know where you're going, Waze looks great for like alternate routes or, little things that pop up.
I can speak to that I love the adventure and danger of Waze. Jesse, who's sitting here on sound, he hates it.
Okay.
Waze is the worst.
He feels that Waze is a death trap. I feel I'm all for it.
See, that's as my wife and I were driving out here together, because we road tripped from Chicago. We essentially took Route 66, that beautiful, iconic journey. I just asked aloud, have traffic accidents gone up or down since everyone's on GPS?
That is a fantastic question, and I wonder what the answer is.
And I don't know.
I don't either.
That's mildly interesting.
Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna plug Reddit Aww. Now listen, I have come to the understanding that many of you do not know of the Reddit Aww, and that is a tragedy because it is the absolute best way to go to sleep. Reddit is a weird long story platform where people post something and it is group managed by upvotes. So it is community managed throughout the country and the world.
So yeah, sort of a socialized front page of the internet.
Yes, but so you say that and then people who don't know have no idea what that means.
I thought I was being very inclusive.
No. So what it means is I post a picture of my puppy on the internet of Reddit, and then Reddit, if they like it, the people of the world will click up, literally up on it. And if enough people click up, it gets to the top of that particular Reddit subcategory. So this is the Reddit Aww, AWW subcategory. And so it's REDDIT and then AWW. And it is all of your needs of puppies, kitties, some really adorable little baby pictures, like little pictures of cute grandmas. Like, it is so happy. And you just have to go through the first couple pages and your heart will be warmed and your sleep will be sound. Yeah, exactly. It's like, aw. Check it out, you guys. Read it, You can just Google it. I'll take you to the link. Well, thank you so much, Andy. We will continue this conversation post-podcast and see what else I can help you with.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you, Audrey. It's been a pleasure.
You too. Very good. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, we talk to Christy Webb, former casting director, currently working at an agency, doing submissions, taking appointments. We are going to discuss the ins and outs of being a casting director. It's actually a really hard life, you guys. And I just wanted people to have some perspective of what the casting director life is like, what it is that they love about it, what it is about it that it's really hard, how much they get paid, just so you can have some perspective. I want you to know that your casting directors are your biggest allies and your best friends. I love the casting director community. They are so the champions and the unsung heroes of this business. So I hope you will enjoy it. I know you are going to love it. This show is produced and edited by Jesse Lumen. He is a writer, director, producer, and virtual reality genius and wizard. If you are creating a current virtual reality experience, please look him up and get in contact with him because he is on it. Special thanks to Andy Cameron, Lauren Myers, and Courtney Cunningham, 3 fantastic actors. I so encourage you to look them up online. Check them out. They've got great footage. They're really coming out here and kicking ass and taking names. I so appreciate the perspective and information they gave on the other markets, and I found somebody for Atlanta. That information coming at you soon. Also, special thanks to Thomas Snodgrass for the mic assistance and providing us with an extra mic here and there. And special thanks to Aalok Mehta for all of his help and work on the theme song. Music this week by Ari De Niro. Most importantly, don't forget that towel.